welcome to the From the Shadows podcast. I'm your host, Shane Grove. And before we get started with this week's episode, I just want to remind everybody that if you want to check out all things From the Shadows podcast, you can go to our website, fromtheshadowspodcast.com. There's links to everything on there, from our TikTok videos, which do not include me singing or dancing, at least not yet. Although Nita, our social media queen, would love that. I think she feels like she could promote that, and I'm not sure why. But anyway, you can get to all of our social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter. Like I said, TikTok. You can find our Patreon page. And if you want to get a hold of me, the easiest way to do it, other than my Instagram, which is Shane Grove Author, you can send me a message there. You can go to our website and go to the contact page. Send me an email. I will get it. I will read it. I will respond to it. And if you have something that you want to share with us, that is the very best way to get a hold of us. So with that being said, I want to bring on our guest this week, who has one of the craziest stories I've heard in a long time, as far as, like, I got no answers for her.
Right.
So I've tried, but she wanted to come forward and tell the story so we can see if anybody else out there has experienced something similar. So joining us is Amy from Virginia. Amy, welcome to the From the Shadows podcast.
Thank you for having me, Shane. I appreciate you having me today.
Well,
congratulations on your 500th episode.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. And the only reason we have 500 episodes is because great eyewitnesses, experiencers want to come on and share those experiences, or else we'd never get to 500. So, this will be like 502, maybe, I don't know. So how could I not have you on after getting the email that I got from you with what you described? So let's get into this story. I want you to, describe the circumstances where you were, within reason. And
Right.
Then kind of, tell us what you saw and experienced, and then some of the aftermath from that.
Okay. All right. So when this happened, when I remembered everything, I took notes, but I can't find those notes. So I'm going to go on memory. So it was, I was invited on a trip. It was basically to go to a cabin in the mountains. It was springtime. I agreed to this in the winter. I like to lay out in the sun, which I know is bad for you, but whatever. I'm old. I like to do it. I'm old school. And this was the first warm day of the year. It was like 70 degrees. Okay. When the day came around. And so my old man's packing the car, and I'm thinking, gosh, I just want to stay here and lay in the sun. You know what I mean? But I went because I honor my obligations. And I really want to see these people because I love these people. So we went to a place. I don't know if you want me to say the name of the cabin.
You can if you want. It's
okay. It's in Lyndhurst, Virginia, and it's called the Cabins at Creekwood.
Okay.
And it was either April 18th, 2019 or April 19th, 2018. I can't remember which. I'm thinking it was the aforementioned, but I'm not positive. But anyway, so it's the next morning. We get there. Everything's great. It's the next morning. I'm standing out on this back deck, and this cabin is beautiful. It's a rental cabin, which has the deck is almost like on stilts, because the backyard, because it's in the mountains, like slopes off. Mm-hmm. So if you were looking to the backyard from the side, you would see a slope, a meadow, and a tree line. The slope, the porch is on kind of stilted, okay, the deck. So I'm standing up there drinking coffee, and I'm thinking, man, it's freezing here. It's like 50 some during the day. Like, it's cold. I didn't dress appropriately, pack appropriately. And I'm just sipping my coffee thinking, man, and so there's a morning fog, and this is like a dew or a fog or whatever in the mountains, and it's rising, and it's a sunny day, but the fog is rising. And I'll tell you why in a minute that's important. So maybe like early 2000s in Virginia, we had an earthquake. And it's the only earthquake I've ever been privy to. So when I look to, something got my attention. I look to the right, and there's like a line of some sort, telephone line, power line, whatever, is violently swaying. And so I'm like, are we having an earthquake? Because that's the only reference I had for it. You know what I mean? My brain kind of melted. I was like, we're not having an earthquake. I'm standing on a deck. It's not moving. And in that very instant, when I'm seeing this power line swaying, as I look away, I don't know what made me look. Maybe I was just looking away. Who knows? But as I'm looking away to the left of this power line at the tree line, I see something. It's about the size of a human head, but it's got like three even lobes to it. Do you know what I'm saying? And you could kind of, I don't know if you could see through it or it wasn't clearly visible. But it wasn't shiny. It was, you know, I don't know how to describe it. But anyway, I saw this thing. It was about the size of a human head. And I'm thinking, what is that? So I tried to look a little closer. I didn't have my glasses on or anything, you know. And I see, that's when it clicks with me what this is. Oh my God. I see this. I see two appendages, not arms. I don't know what you want to call them. I'm like, it's a praying mantis, the size of a human or slightly larger. And you can't see it. Sorry, you can't see it all the way. And so at this point, I'm going to tell you what I remembered happening, and then I'm going to tell you what I learned later happened. So when I see this, I froze. I was like, oh my God, it's a giant praying mantis. And then my old man comes in the door, and the guy, his friend, our friend that was with him, and my old man has broken his tailbone. So I have a medical background. So he's having me look at his butt, saying, is my tailbone broken? And I just remember staring at his tailbone, staring at his butt crack, excuse my expression, shaped like an S. I'm like, it's clearly broken. And then I don't remember very much after that. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't ever mention it the entire time. Now, later that night, when I was changing my clothes or taking a shower or something, I found a skipping stone in my pocket. It was just a river stone that looks like you'd want to skip it on the water. And I was like, where'd this come from? And then I was like, wait a minute. I went to the lake today. Like, we went to the lake. I had pictures in my phone of the lake. We went to a place. Okay, so there's two lakes. It's Upper Shenandoah Lake and Lower Shenandoah Lake. I believe these are in the George Washington National Forest. And the girls went to one lake and the guys went to the other. I don't remember which. Okay, so we were just sitting by the lake in our chairs, in our little lawn chairs or whatever, and the guys were fishing. So the guys are in earshot of each other fishing, and I don't think they could see each other, but they could hear each other if they yell. My old man slipped on a slippery rock and fell and broke his butt. He left his cell phone in the vehicle. So he's yelling for his friend. His friend finally sees that he's hurt, helps him up and out of there. But before that happens, the girls had already gone. We'd gone home. So the guys come in maybe, I don't know, 30, 45 minutes later. And my boyfriend walks in first with a broken tailbone and tells me about his butt. But none of the lake. I didn't remember going to the lake or taking pictures or skipping stones or anything at all. It's as if when I saw this thing, my memory seamlessly went to looking at his injury. And I still to this day cannot explain it. I don't have missing time per se because I went to the lake. I just didn't remember it. And if I hadn't have found the rock and the pictures, I don't know if I'd ever remembered it. It's as if it didn't happen until I found those items. It's the strangest thing. I I don't know how to I don't know where to put this. And I feel very alone in it. And it's like a feeling of I don't want to tell anybody because I feel like they're going to be like, oh, well, I believe she believes herself, but I don't believe her. Like, because that's how I'd feel if somebody said that crazy mess to me. So the only person I've really ever told the whole story to is my son, who's one of my best friends. And I told my old man, I told him about what I saw, but I didn't tell him anything else. I didn't tell him what happened after I saw it, nor did he ask because he didn't even believe in stuff like that. And that's that.
So, okay, so now is your initial feeling when you realized that you didn't remember anything, did you think, did you immediately think back to what you saw in the woods that appeared to be like what you described as a praying mantis and think they were
What?
connected?
Yeah, well, not immediately. Immediately when I saw the photo, I thought, why am I? Because I clearly took the photo because I'm not in it. And I'm thinking, why am I sitting away from everyone else? Like, that's not in my nature. Like, I love these people. Why am I? Because I'll send you the photo later. They were far out. I was taking a picture of it. And I'm thinking, why am I isolating myself on the other side of the lake? Like, I would never do that normally. So that, and then I remember thinking I felt weird that day, almost like foggy. The day felt foggy. Back to the fog. I meant to tell you that. Okay, so the fog was rising when I saw this thing. It was rising. The mountain was behind the cabin. So the fog is rising and it's a sunny day. And I don't believe I ever would have saw this thing if the fog hadn't have risen just right and covered the sun for a minute. And when that happened, I could see it better than if it was full sun. And I know that sounds counterintuitive. You would think you'd be
Mm-hmm.
able to see something better in the light. But as the fog rose, that's when I could clearly see the head and the arms. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I'd never saw it from the waist down. It looked to me to be a greenish gray color. Um, it looked uniform in color, uh, and huge. And
So and so so when you told me, when you told me this story the other day, and I immediately my first thought is it's so similar to like a UFO abduction kind of story, okay? Which, and I don't, what is a UFO abduction? Do
right.
they really actually take the person physically? Even though the person physically feels like they're somewhere else and have been taken?
Yes.
Or is it more of a spiritual thing, a subconscious thing that you are taken to another plane of existence or something? And that's, I
Yeah.
mean, who knows? The stories are so fascinating,
And I've got to tell you, there's no mind speak. There's none of that. There's none of that. But for some reason, I got this gnawing feeling that this has something to do. I had a hysterectomy in my early 20s. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Which is, that's,
Very unusual.
yeah, yeah, it is.
And I had a feeling it just left me alone because of that. It, I don't know why. I
Oh.
just feel like that's why I'm sitting here today. I feel like, oh, on to the next. I don't know. That's a feeling. It's just a feeling. But women are very intuitive, like a bunny in the forest. Like we sense when something's wrong. We have instincts that are different than men's instincts. Do you know what I mean? And I just felt
I'm
like,
reminded,
oh,
I have 4 daughters and a wife. I'm reminded all the time that I don't know. So yes, I know.
and I just felt like that had something to do with it. I mean, look, I'm not mentally ill in any way. I graduated at the top of my class in college. I nothing like that. Okay. I don't want you to think I'm crazy, But for some reason, I just feel like that had something to do with it.
No, and it's, look, I think when you experience something like that and then do know, hey, I'm lost some time, like
Looking for
what?
answers. I'm just looking for
Yeah.
answers and any little thing I can cling to. And look, like I said, I feel alone in this. And I don't want anyone else to feel like this. If this has happened to somebody else, I want to know, and I want them to know that they are not alone. Because I've never watched a podcast in my life, not the first podcast of anything, other, not even cryptid, but anything, until this happened to me. And I was looking, listening, waiting to see, so I wouldn't feel this way, for someone to say it. And no one has. And it's been years. And if I have to be the first, here I am. Here I am, because I don't want anyone else to feel like this. When this happened, I've thought about it every single day. I think about it probably twice a week now, but I still think about it all the time, trying to
Well,
rationalize it.
and I think I mentioned to you, like, so you said if it hadn't been for that motion, you'd have never
Never.
probably seen it. So you think, okay, how many other times has something like that? I look out on our back porch, and it's fields and woods and stuff, and you're like, how? What am I
Yeah,
not seeing?
right.
And I hear all the time from people who say when the infrared stuff and the when you use those kind of glasses or telescopes or stuff, you see stuff that the naked eye cannot see, stuff that's all
Yeah.
around us, in the solar system
I've
and
heard
other
about like
places.
the diacetyl glass in the World War II with the pilots with the goggles. I've heard those stories. How many times do you see a tree limb move and there's no wind, or it freaks you out. It freaks you out, especially after something like this.
Oh
Especially.
yeah, yeah, and and then when you're describing the body type, what you saw, yeah, it looks like a praying mantis, but the long, spindly like
Yeah.
arms and then the head, I think alien, like right away, like what people
Yeah.
describe as the gray alien type
Mhm.
thing. And you're
My
just
mind
like,
never went there. It just went praying mantis. I don't know why. It just went to praying mantis, but that's what I saw. I don't
well,
know.
when you look at a praying mantis and you're just like, where did that where did
Yeah.
that design come from? I mean,
Yeah.
they look really like alien
It's a
to everything
Tesla
else.
among Fords. It is.
Yeah.
It's like a platypus. Like what?
Yeah, exactly.
And it
Exactly.
eats its prey live and it mates and kills. It's scary. I don't know that it is. It's a scary thing. Just to think about something that's the size of a human that could do that
Hmm.
is petrifying. It's petrifying.
Yeah.
And I was petrified, believe me.
And I believe I believe there's somebody, at least one somebody, if not many, who probably are listening or know somebody that has had a similar story. So I hope that they will reach out to us, and so that I can let you know, look, you're not alone. Because
Yeah.
I think, I mean, I've talked to quite a few people who've had um, alien abduction or missing time or stuff. So you wonder how all that ties in together.
Well, I've been racking my brain trying to put together things, from my childhood, because I've had weird stuff happen to me since a kid. I've always been able to hear ghosts pretty much. Like when at my grandmother's house when I was a small child, she had three dogs, Buster, Benji, and Baby. And she had a hardwood floor. Now these dogs passed away, and then she got carpet. But at night, you could still hear their toenails clicking across the floor. I could. My grandmother could.
Your
Like
oh
it's
your
one
your grandma
on the
could hear it
maternal
too.
line. Yeah, our maternal line, we have that sense. And a lot of things happened in her house when I was young. I remember almost like you'd learn to talk. I would go, make these sounds, and I felt like something wanted me to, like, and I could see like a shadow in the corner. I never could see it fully, but it moved fast, like 2 or 3 times faster than a human. And I would sit on the bed, and it seemed to please whatever this was, and I would make these like cracking sounds with my voice and
I
slow
know
it
what you.
down. And
I know what you. I remember making those same noises as a kid. As a kid,
yeah,
when you're just
I
messing
felt
around.
like whatever this was wanted me to do it, and it was pleasing to it. I was probably before I even went to kindergarten, probably 4. And then when I was somewhere between 5 and 9, I'm not exactly sure how old I was, but I've tried to figure out many times judging by the height of what I was looking at and who was alive at the time. But this story I'm about to tell you happened when I was about 5 or 9, and we come from a Pentecostal family, okay, and my grandma was super religious. So I'm at her house, and my cousin, Carolyn, had brought over an undesirable friend of my grandmother, and they were doing something with cards. I don't know what kind of cards. I just remember the word cards. And my grandmother was very upset about it because after they did whatever they did in the living room with these cards, weird stuff started to happen around the house that was clearly evil. And my grandma it's really a 2-story house, but ever since her kids grew up, no one lived in the top level. So she called it the attic. And she just stored things up there. And there was a full staircase going up to the attic, it's just an upstairs, but the attic, I remember my grandma screaming like a couple of nights later. It sounded like furniture was rolling across the attic floor up there. There was like sewing machines and old furniture and whatever up there, bodices, whatever she, used to make her dresses on, all that stuff was up there. And when I heard this and she said this, whatever adults were in the house at the time, for some reason, went out on the front porch and they started praying. And I was just kind of standing there like, I want to see this. So I swung open the door. It was a regular door, like a door to a room. And there was a staircase that went straight up, a full staircase. And then to the left was a railing and the rest of the upstairs. When I swung this door open, there was a large light being that I instantly knew was an angel at the top of the stairs. I'm assuming that it was probably 10 foot tall because that's how tall I think the ceiling was. And it was at least 3 feet wide. It blocked the whole entrance to the top of the staircase. And it was screaming one word. It was not English. It was no language I've ever heard. It was saying, if I had to spell it, I would say it was Caviet. It sounded like it was yelling caveat. It was not a voice like a person. It sounded like a hawk. If you took a hawk and you mixed it with like rushing water, like it had an echo to it, like an ethereal. It was like, I can't do it, but it was yelling, caveat, like that. But it wasn't a male voice. It wasn't a female voice. It was just a booming voice telling me, and I knew what it meant. Shut that door, young lady. I knew immediately what to do. I shut the door. I went outside with the adults and we talked about it the whole next morning. I remember my cousin, the one that did the card thing. I remember her saying, oh, well, in some other language, Latin or Greek or whatever, that it means beware. I think it was caveat or something. And she was trying to convince my grandmother, oh, it must have said caveat, but it didn't. I clearly, it said caveat. I heard it and I will never forget it. It is burned in my memory like a searing hot poker. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. It was golden light in the shape of a giant what I can only say is an angel. I didn't, I don't know, but weird stuff like that's happened to me my whole life. I saw an actual, that was what I take as an angel yelling to me for my safety.
And so the whole family knew this was going on. Like everybody that was there knew this was.
It was my grandma, Carolyn. I want to say my mother might have been there because I think that's why I was there. I think she was dropping me off. And I can't remember who else was there, but the attic stairs, the attic stairs are very close to the front porch where they were. It's like 15 feet. I don't know why they went out. I don't know if they were scared or what, but they were all on the porch with their heads down praying with their eyes shut. And I'm like, I'm going to walk over to this door. They just left me in there. I'm walking over to this door and swinging it open. I was a very good child. I was very well behaved. I was the first grandchild, so I was rotten. Like everyone, no one was like, "Where's Amy?" They should have been, but we're talking about the early '80s. Like,
so it almost sounds like they had experienced this before.
We've all experienced plenty.
But I'm saying like that, like they knew what that being was to just go out on the porch and start praying. Like,
yeah, it's weird.
Like why would they just automatically do that? Like,
yeah.
So it's almost like they had experienced before and this is what they did. Because I gotta be honest, if I opened the door and there was something standing there like that, I'd be like, who are you? What are you doing in my attic or my second floor? So
they were already on the porch when I opened the door. They heard the furniture start rolling, they went outside and started praying.
So
just left me there.
So maybe they didn't. Okay. So, golly, I got nothing. But I'm just saying, it seems like it seems like it's something they experienced before, and maybe they had never opened the door.
Yeah.
Maybe they'd never opened the door and looked, and they just thought it was something evil or whatever.
Yeah. So they definitely thought something evil. That's why they were praying. They didn't think to open the door, nothing like that. They just immediately started praying. Strong faith in my family. Yeah, definitely. That's where you go. You go to the Lord when there's a problem immediately. You don't put around. Yeah.
So what do you think this angel was telling you to beware of?
It was telling me to get away from those stairs and shut that door. I don't know what was up there, but it stopped when I shut that door. It stopped.
Oh, okay. So whatever was rolling around the furniture,
yeah,
you think this angel was protecting you from going upstairs and checking it out?
No, it was.
Okay. All right. So that makes a little more sense to me. Like, so they must have thought there was something evil upstairs and they went outside to pray about it.
Oh my God. I never thought about it until now that maybe their prayer brought the angel.
Yeah, exactly.
Never even occurred to me because I'm just a little kid. I never even thought about that aspect of it, that their prayer would have brought the angel. I just thought the angel was just there.
So the angel wasn't the one rolling furniture around.
No, something else bad was up there, and they started praying.
Okay, and then when you opened it, it's like, whoa, get out of here, kid.
Yeah, I didn't know there was an angel up there. I just wanted to see what was rolling the furniture around.
Okay, all right. Now that's a little bit clearer picture now in my head of what was happening. Okay, yeah, all right.
I know it sounds so crazy, but it happened. Look, I will take a lie detector test any day of the week on any story. I'm telling you, sir, this is all true.
No, I'm not. I'm not questioning the story. I'm just trying to piece together like what makes the most sense out of what's happening, and that to me, then that makes the sense. I mean, look, obviously, if they just went out and started praying, they knew something was going on.
Oh yeah.
And maybe they didn't realize that they were going to conjure up an angel, or an angel was going to be there, or whatever being it was trying to protect you. But I mean, that's wow. It's kind of crazy.
It didn't have a face. It didn't have one face. It it was light. It was light in the shape of a giant human, 2 arms, 2 legs, something behind it, maybe wings, but it it was huge, and it wasn't one. It looked like it had maybe 3 heads, whatever it was.
Okay.
But
So let me ask you this. Does the thing you saw off the back porch, did it resemble what you saw at
no,
all,
not
only just not visible?
no, not even a little bit. I wish I
Okay.
could tie it together like that, but honestly, no. They were
Just
night and day. I got a very I got a very protective feeling from the light being, whereas the other thing, it was almost clinical, like it was. Oh, I forgot to mention this praying mantis thing. It was aiming its head down like this. Like it was aiming the top of its head at me. I, at first I thought, is it like listening, or I don't even think they have ears. It was trying to sense something about me. Like it had its head down. That's why I saw 3. You know how praying mantis has the eye here, and the shape of the head?
yeah.
Because it had its head down, that's why I saw 3 even lobes. You see what I'm saying? So this
Yeah.
thing was like pointing its head at me, trying to sense something about me. It felt very clinical, like, nope, you're not the droid I'm looking for. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I got that a lot from women growing up. So as they were bowing, like, okay, I'm sorry, oh, okay. So okay, so you have this experience with an angel. Like, how did that change? I mean, that change anything for you, or
I
was
was
it?
I was always raised in church up until that age, and it really my look at that age when you see something like that, you first of all, I knew it was real. Like you don't question it. It's like when your parents take you to see Santa Claus, you sit on his lap, he's right there. You don't question it. I knew for certain. I had been to church since I was baptized as an infant every Sunday, and I just knew they were real. So I never questioned. That's what it was. It was an angel. It was an angel, and that's what I've always thought it was, and that's the sense I got from it. And it was a protective nature. And why wouldn't it be an angel? What else? I don't know what else it would have been, but I definitely saw this thing.
Now, was there any other time in your life where you sensed this being or this, angel was around you, or that even if you didn't see it? I mean,
I've always felt like stuff was around me. Um, uh, Before my hysterectomy, all the time. After my hysterectomy, no, not so much.
really?
But before my hysterectomy, let me tell you this. Okay, so about the time I started to think something was wrong, I had already had a little boy and a little girl, and they were elementary school age, very young. And I was in my own home. It was my day off from the hospital, and I was just laying in bed with abdominal pain. And I knew it was like something to do with my reproductive system, but I didn't know what. And I remember it was extremely painful. And I was laying in bed, curled up, and I rolled over on my belly. And I was just laying there, and I was at home alone. I lived alone with my kids. And I heard a male voice. I've never heard any voice before or since that was disembodied. Again, I'm not crazy. It was a man's voice, and it said, "It's not cancer." Very clearly,
Hmm.
no accent at all, perfect English. And I remember thinking, because you think weird stuff when something like that happens, your brain goes to strange places. And I remember thinking, well, that's weird. God uses contractions. I would have thought he would say, "It is not cancer." Like he said, "It's not cancer." Just that's all it said. And before I talked to you earlier, me and my son, we were talking about this because we've talked about it many times. And I was like, you know, nothing ever tells me it's not a broken toe. Like, why would you comment on my reproductive system? That's the only time that's ever happened. It's like it, don't radiate your uterus, like you're fine, like chill out. You know what I mean? Like it said, it's not cancer. And it wasn't cancer, as a matter of fact. And yeah, I can't explain that one either, but I never tied it to the praying mantis thing until just today before this phone call when I was talking to my son about it. And I was like, that's weird. Like, never before or since has that happened. Like, why that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I mean, I could see where you would make some of those connections for sure based on, what people think, like, aliens are abducting people for, to do experiments or to do, something with reproduction, and how you would have that feeling like, they came and said, hey, she'd make really good looking aliens. But
Right. Yeah.
but then say, oh, she can't. Oh man.
Yeah.
Like I could see that. And the fact that
The fact that I graduated summa cum laude of my class and all of that, like that plays into my mind too. Like, oh, but ever since I had my hysterectomy, nothing like that except the praying mantis thing. But before that, I've got stories, many. But after my hysterectomy, not so much. Not so much.
Huh. So do you want to share a couple more stories, while we have some time?
I'll share one more. This
Okay,
is going
all
to
right.
blow your mind, as if the
Okay.
others aren't weird enough. Okay, so this one I think it's a ghost story. Okay, I think it might be a ritual story. We'll see we'll see how you take it. But my grandmother she was a heavy set woman, and when she got pretty ill, I sold my home and moved in with her to take care of her for the last like 6 years of her life or so, and homeschooled my kids and everything. We moved to Richmond City, which is not so great, and so she slept in a Craftmatic adjustable chair. She refused to get in her bed. She had a nice brass bed she wouldn't get in. There might have been iron, I can't remember, whatever, wrought iron. So me being in the medical field, I'm like, I am going to call the DME company and I'm going to order you a hospital bed because you need to lay down. It's not good for your ankles. You're going to swell, blah, blah, blah. You get DVTs. So I ordered this bed. This bed, when I tell you this bed looks like something straight out of a freaking 1970s tuberculosis ward, it had, look,
It was an
Shay,
iron lung or what?
it had a crank on the foot of it to crank the head up and down on this bed. This bed had been paid for 100 times over, I'm sure, by people renting it. I was so pissed. I was like, what is this hunk of crap they sent you? I'm going to call them. But in the meantime, I want you to sleep in it because I want your legs to be even with your heart. And I'm going to sleep in it tonight and let you know how it feels because I was trying to talk her into doing it. So I get in the bed and I'm, sleeping in the bed. Now, middle of the night, I'm dreaming I'm on a roller coaster. I'm having a weird dream that I'm on a roller coaster. And I need to preface this by saying in this room, there is I think not a wardrobe. What do you call it? A vanity. Like it's a dresser and it has a mirror and two side mirrors that you can move on either side. And it goes almost to the ceiling, this mirror at the foot of the bed. So I'm asleep in the bed. I'm dreaming I'm on a roller coaster and I wake up. And the first thing I realize is my face is so close to the light fixture on the ceiling. Like, what? Like all this I'm telling you happens in nanoseconds. Okay. I wake up, my face is close to the ceiling. I'm like, what's going on? I look this way and I can see the top of the mirror. Like, and the bed is undulating. The bed is rocking back and forth in the air. There are beings on either side of me. I want to say 3 on either side, 1 at the foot. There may have been of 1 at the head, but I'm not sure because I couldn't see it in the mirror, but I could hear them chanting. I could not see them all the way, but I have that sense so I could see them a little. They were wearing, I think, brown robes, and they were chanting something in a different language, and the bed went boom and hit the floor. When the bed hit the floor, my grandmother woke up in her chair. Both my kids, elementary school age, got up, ran in there. The dog, everything, it was chaos. It's in the middle of the night. The next day, I call the DME company. And I'm like, get this hunk of out of this house. I want a decent bed for my grandmother. The guy comes with the truck. He comes to get the bed. He said, what's wrong with this bed? I just dropped it off, and the drive shaft under the bed that cranks the foot, it's some sort of sturdy metal. I want to say iron. I don't know if it was iron, steel, whatever. Even though it's an old bed, it's broken too. It is broken in 2 from the fall. He said, what has happened to this bed? I just dropped this bed off. This bed was just delivered. And I lied my ass off. Excuse my French. I'm like, y'all deliver this hunk of crap like this. Get it out of here. I want a new bed. And they brought a new bed. But that, I wish my grandma was alive to corroborate this story. My son was there. My daughter was there. They all remember this. It was intense. And they did deliver a new bed, and it never happened again. And I don't know if this was something that was attached to this bed or whatever, but it never happened before or since. And that was incredible. That was incredible.
Now, you absolutely know those guys pulled away with that bed and said, now, wait a second.
Yeah.
Grandma, what's Grandma doing in the bed? What's she doing in the
I think I remember the guy saying something like, it looks like he dropped this from a 2-story. Like, how did this happen? And I'm like, you delivered it like that. Like, I just lied, because what am I supposed to say to him?
So what do you think that was? Like, do you think
know.
Was that,
so many things have happened to me in my life. I don't even really, I wouldn't even be trying to even put thought into it and tie it all together now if I wasn't talking to you, because some of these things I haven't thought about in years, because so many things have happened to me over the years that you kind of get numb to them. And the praying mantis thing really bothers me, because everybody knows what an angel is. Everybody knows what a ghost is. Everybody knows what occultism is with chanting. Everybody knows what that stuff is, and millions of people have seen or heard those types of things. But the praying mantis one really gets me, because I've never heard another person admit what I'm telling you, and that's the one that bugs me. The other ones I can live with. This one, not so much. This one, I want to feel like this. I cannot carry this by myself, and I don't want anyone else to carry it by themselves. I don't.
So now you mentioned that you think this got passed down through the family.
Yes.
Is this stuff get passed down to your kids then?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's why I was talking to my son. He doesn't want to talk about his stuff. He doesn't want to talk about it, and I don't blame him.
But at least you guys can talk about it together.
Yeah.
And he understands that he's not crazy, and you can relate to what he's talking about, which is a blessing and a curse. You don't want somebody to go through that stuff, but at least they're not alone.
It's a lot of guilt. There's a lot of guilt when you pass stuff like that down to your kids. I'll put it that way. There's a lot of guilt, because you feel like it's your fault. And it is. Is it genetic? Is it hereditary? Is it, call it what you will? But maybe if he'd had a different mom, he wouldn't have these. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I take full responsibility for my kids not knowing anything about math and science. So I was just, in fact, which is funny, I was just talking about that because three of my daughters are going to, be I mean, one's already a lawyer, one's in law school, one wants to go to law school. So they,
Congratulations.
yeah, and the response from the person was, maybe they think you're going to need all that legal help. I said, "Geez, thanks a lot, thanks a lot." But no, I totally
Yeah.
get that, and
Yeah.
but I do think it's good that you guys can at least lean on each other a little bit, and I am hoping. I know there's other people listening that have experienced the same thing you have with the angel. I know that,
Right.
because I think I think there's people that have had those experiences where something has saved them from some sort of danger or some sort of evil.
Right.
And whether they saw it as an angel or a light or whatever, I guarantee there's other people that have experienced that. But yeah, I do hope that people hear that first story, and like I said, we'll share it with some of the other guys that run podcasts because they have immense um, databases of information
Yeah.
and stories, and there may be something that is very similar. But you know, what my first inclination is
Yeah.
I think it has something to do alien wise. So I'm
Yeah.
curious to see what other people and so just so we're all on the same page. You've never gone and asked those women that you were with just anything about the day at the lake?
I haven't told them what happened.
But I
I
mean,
haven't even told my own mother.
I would be curious just to ask them, not
Was
just
I
tell
off
them that.
that day? Yes. Was I acting a little off that day?
Do you
I'm
remember
sure I
anything happen?
was because I felt off, but no.
Hmm.
And I have to say, I have to go back to what you said about my son. I remember going to my grandmother many times, many times. I leaned on her many times about this stuff.
Mhm.
If there was something in my room when I was making the sounds or,
And she
you know,
understood, and that's the thing, is she understood it, and and like the judge who's not on today, but he told a similar story about his daughter talking about this imaginary friend she had, and he just blew it off as, kids have imaginary friends, until he figured out it was it wasn't just some imaginary friend. It was when he saw it and heard it through the baby monitor,
yes.
talking in a different language, and then he saw it, and he's like, "Holy smoke!" And he always encourages people from that experience that he had, like, "Hey, look, if your kid comes to you with don't blow it off as, oh, they're just crazy, they're
Yeah.
just kids. I mean, maybe you better talk to them a little bit. And even if it's something you don't understand, maybe it's something you can help them understand. Because if kids are experiencing that, either they're more perceptive or something,
Yeah. I'll
and
tell you a story that I remember this. I forgot all about this until I was thinking about talking to my grandma. My grandmother had a best friend, and she was a school teacher, and her name was Mrs. Woldridge, and I just loved her. And when she passed away, I was, I don't know, late teens, early 20s, and I had taken my kids to spend the night with my grandma, or either we were living there to take care of her. I can't remember which, but I was in her spare bedroom asleep, and at the foot of the bed, Miss Woodridge had died. I don't know if I mentioned that or not. And at the foot of the bed, I wake up and there's Miss Woolridge. And before I'd gone to sleep, I was praying because at my legs are not, I have the ugliest legs on the planet. Okay. And I had like a little varicose vein on my leg. And I remember thinking, ugh, gosh, I'm in my early 20s or whatever. And I've got this yucky, ugly little vein on my leg. And Miss Woolridge had terrible varicose veins. She so bad her legs would weep with fluid.
oh
Okay,
boy.
not blood, but like they would weep from the swelling, edema. And I remember waking up and seeing her at the foot of the bed, and she was telling me, "Honey, everything's gonna be just fine." Everything's going to be okay. And I told my grandma that I saw Miss Wooldridge, and she was asking me what she was wearing. And I said, well, she was wearing a green dress with white flowers and had like a pilgrim looking collar on it. And I remember my grandma just screeching because my grandmother picked her dress out to be buried in because they were best friends. And she said that's what she buried her in. And, you know, that's one of those things that really cements it to you. Because a lot of times you're like, am I okay? You know what I mean? But I am.
Yeah.
It happened, and it's true. And I wish my grandmother was here to corroborate this because that's what happened.
Well, I think a lot of people have experiences or know people that have experiences similar to what you're describing. Not necessarily the praying mantis, but
Right.
they have like the spiritual, more spiritual experiences, if that's what you want to call it. And
and I remember telling her so many times, you know, these things move so fast. Like regular ghosts, like me and you, like if you were a ghost or I were a ghost, they move maybe they move quick, but the scarier things move about 3 times faster than we do. Like they're a flash, like you can see them moving way faster. Like they're in a different time space. They're in a different dimension. When you see, you know, they move different. They move different.
Maybe they're just the young ones, and the old ones are the ones that move slow, like me.
Yeah.
Well, Amy, I'm glad that you sent me a message and you agreed to come on, and I'm looking forward to hearing some responses, and hopefully we'll get some people that share some of this stuff, and it'll make you feel better.
I hope so. And I hope it makes them feel better because I'm just trying to be brave and help somebody because I don't want them to feel like I feel. And like I'd said before, you know, not everybody, but people know what angels are. They know what ghosts are. They know whatever. But this one, I don't know. Can't stick it in a box. And I'm hoping to help somebody. I hope there's someone else. But thank you for giving me the opportunity to tell you.
No,
I really appreciate you.
It's my pleasure, and you know, thanks for sharing.
Yeah. All right. Well, you have a good day.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadow. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.
God only knows what's hiding